It has been 468 days since the war in Ukraine broke out. Moscow has been trying its best to take control over Kyiv. But in a sudden flurry of military activity, Ukrainian forces have ramped up their artillery strikes and ground assaults at several points along the front line. Once again, raising the burning question, has Ukraine finally started its counteroffensive against Russia? Our next report tells you more.
For months, a guessing game has played out in military circles worldwide. Where and when would Ukraine conduct its counter-offensive? Well, for weeks, the Ukrainian forces have ramped up their artillery strikes and ground assaults at several points along the front line, stretching from south to the northeast. The goal: to thwart the Russian offensive and even reclaim lost territories. During the night hours, Ukraine has allegedly used drones to destroy enemy tanks. But in the latest, a huge dam in the Russian-controlled area of southern Ukraine has been destroyed. The Soviet-era Nova Kakhovka dam in the occupied Kherson region unleashed a flood of water. Thousands of people are at risk, with fears that any flooding could be catastrophic. Ukrainian authorities say 16,000 people are in the flooding critical zone and evacuation efforts are ongoing. The massive breach in the dam, with water surging through it, is just one of the latest incidents that have happened since the war broke out. But the question which remains unanswered: who was behind the dam attack? A blame game has started between the two sides. Ukrainians and NATO are blaming Russia for it, while Moscow says Kiev is behind the attack. Everything remains hidden in the fog of the war. So will this incident make Ukraine launch its much-vaunted counter-offensive? There are signs on the battlefield from Bakhmut to the wider Donetsk region. However, Kiev remains tight-lipped, and quite literally so, evident in this video released by Ukrainian Defense Minister. Well, a closer analysis of the theatre of conflict shows that Ukrainian forces have been using the Western weapons to good use. They have hit areas which were earlier beyond its range, like Lugansk, where it reportedly used the British Storm Shadow missiles. But for now, officially Kiev has maintained a veil of secrecy over its counter-offensive, which has been months in planning. And Ukrainian commanders are seemingly focused instead on a spring-summer military campaign. Clearly a decisive military offensive which would look spectacular and would give Kiev an upper hand is yet to come. But doing so is increasingly difficult, as the Russians have fortified their defenses to cling on to the territories they snatched in the first weeks of its special military operation in February 2022. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
For more on this, we are being joined by William Courtney from Washington, D.C. He's an adjunct senior fellow at RAND Global Think Tank. Thank you so much for joining us on WION, and welcome back to the program. William, how do you see Ukraine's response in wake of the attack on the Nova Kakhovka dam?
It appears that the Russians, which control the dam, are responsible, either as a purposeful explosion to breach the dam in two places, or as a result of mismanagement of the dam. The Russians have been in charge of the dam. The water level has been high behind the dam, and there have been some signs seen in satellite photographs before the breach that there may be some structural problems in the dam, which the Russians have not managed well. So it's unclear which might be the Russian purpose. Because the canal, which supplies vital water to Crimea, is jeopardized now because it takes water from the large reservoir behind the dam, whether Crimea may end up losing some or all of the water that it would normally expect to receive. So if the Russians had done this on purpose, they either didn't pay attention to the implications for Crimea or they didn't care. If this were a structural mismanagement issue, though, then this breach could have occurred and the Russians just simply didn't manage it well. You will recall that the Russians are managing the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant as well, and there have been concerns about mismanagement there. The Ukrainians have no reason to have blown up the dam.
As for now, Moscow is silent, as has been this trend during the Ukraine-Russia war, well, where the parties involved often stay silent. But for those of us that don't know the significance of this dam, why was this dam attacked in the first place, in your opinion?
The Russians took control of the dam after they launched their full-scale invasion in February 2022, over a year ago, and have maintained control since then. There is no understanding really of what Russia's motives have been in managing the dam. It should have managed it more carefully than it has, and it may have decided to blow up the dam in order to cause a larger widening of the water downstream from the dam, which the Russians might have perceived would impede a Ukrainian cross-river assault as part of a Ukrainian counteroffensive. But that factor doesn't seem so important in comparison with the others.
William Courtney from Washington, D.C., thank you so much for joining us on WION, and we look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
You're welcome.